The J.R. McKenzie Trust and the Ministry of Youth Development have partnered together, and we're really proud to present the following talk on the new work order by Jan Owen. This presentation is underpinned by really valuable research undertaken by the Foundation for Young Australians. We think it's a very crucial topic and that the research presented by Jan is very important for anyone and everyone working in New Zealand with young people. We hope you're both interested in and challenged by Jan's presentation, and most of all, we hope you enjoy it.
What we're going to do today is go through some research that FYA has been working on for the last 2.5 years. So in Australia, there are 4.3 million young people. Most young people are leaving higher education with $24,000 more debt than their parents did at the same age. It takes 3 times the amount of debt at their same age as their parents did to get access to their first house. 31.5%, or 650,000 young Australians, a massive number, are what we call or underemployed. The underemployed are the new group. So my favourite underemployed person is the barista at the cafe next door to my office. Coffee barista was not in that set of things that he wanted to be when he grew up, but he cannot find a job in the area for which he was employed or has studied and accrued debt, because on average in Australia it's taking 4.7 years from when you finish higher education to get a job in that field for which you accrued debt, studied, and for which you are still at home. So as I said, we actually wanted to understand what on earth is going on for young people. It cannot just be that they are entitled, lazy, and kind of not doing the right thing. And so our research took us to these 3 global forces that are actually impacting our young people every single day in many ways, no matter who they are, no matter where they are. And these are 3 that you will be quite, I think, au fait with. Number 1 is automation, the second globalisation, and the third flexibility. So let's just go through these quickly. Right now, 7 in 10 young people will enter job markets where we absolutely expect there will be automation and disruption and transformation. 7 in 10 young people. But interestingly, and the insight in this piece of data is that 60% of young people are actually studying in higher ed for those jobs that are about to be disrupted, changed, transformed. Now that doesn't mean they shouldn't study for those jobs, but the point is that they need to know about the disruption and change that's happening so that you can be prepared. Already 1 in 10 jobs can be done offshore. You know this when you ring to get help with your mobile phone in the middle of the night. You may be talking to somebody in India, in the Philippines, anywhere in the world. So we are already in a very globalised environment. But what we forget, and at our peril, is that a few hours north of Australia and New Zealand is the gateway to where there are 750 million 12 to 26-year-old young people who, for the first time, are educated. 250 million Chinese people lifted out of poverty in the last 10 or 15 years, and who are ambitious for opportunity, as they should be. Number 3, 1 in 3 Australians anyway, and Americans actually higher, are already working in a flexible arrangements. Now let me just disabuse you of this right now. In our context, and I think also in New Zealand, this is not the gig economy and amazingness. This is actually right now for young people, this is cobbling together some forms of work, part-time, casual, just to get by. Nobody has gone to a bank yet with 5 jobs and said, give me a home loan, and got one. So it sounds so hot and sexy to be in the gig economy. And the word is thrown around all over the place. But the reality right now is that we're in an insecure, casualised labour market. We will get there, but governments need to work towards this and help young people in a very different way. Our research said that we can expect a 15-year-old today to have up to 17 jobs in 5 different industries. That's not 17 different degrees, don't panic. That's not 17 lots of debt, but it is actually thinking about how will you use what you have in a range of different contexts. We used big data for the first time ever to try and understand what was going on the demand side. We all know about the supply side, lots of young people, lots of education, over-educated actually has been what our young people have been described as. So we wanted to see, what do employers want? What does the marketplace want from young people? So we looked at 2.7 million job ads and we analysed 4,600 diverse skills. And this is what we discovered. In the Australian economy, and again, I've had really good advice from economists that this is very similar in New Zealand, we were able to see work in 7 new job clusters that we had not thought about before. And this is because, I just want to reiterate, we looked at skills and capabilities, not vertical jobs. So we actually looked across jobs and saw what were the most common skills and capabilities that actually combined to make a set of jobs. The 3 growth areas for our educators who are in the informers, good news, carers and technologists, the 3 fastest growing areas. The 2 areas that are kind of stable but not growing so rapidly are the designers and the generators. And the 2 that are absolutely kind of moving backwards are the artisans and the coordinators. These are the kind of jobs that you'll see within these clusters. Now, when you go and look at this, and I hope that you do, there's a lot of detail behind this, you'll look at the carers and you'll say, how could, in the carers group, for instance, there be a fitness instructor and a surgeon? Because you certainly don't want your fitness instructor operating on you, probably. If you're like me, I don't. But the point is that we were able to find enough common skills and capabilities embedded in that group of jobs that we could join them up and link them together. And you'll see this across all of the clusters of work. The real insight, apart from producing brand new work on what makes jobs connected, was this. And this is probably the most powerful thing that we could tell and the most wonderful thing for young people. By training in one of the jobs in a cluster, you could actually access up to 13 others. And this is profoundly important because acquiring skills and capabilities rather than going after a dream job, remember 17 jobs, 5 different industries, you can say goodbye to the dream job. But the fact that you could actually unlock up to 13 other jobs by entering into one job in a cluster changes everything. It shows you that you can move. And this was also key for us because it said that you could just upskill or retrain. So right now the research says many young people are going back to start again. They're kind of in the, I've got to go and do another degree, I've got to go and get my master's, that kind of really, really shocking, expensive and kind of dead end kind of future in a way, which sounds bizarre given how qualified and educated young people are at the end of that. But this is about upskilling and retraining. You do not have to start again. And that is a powerful, powerful message for young people and for students today. In the next 5 to 10 years, automation will take out entire levels of jobs and middle management is at risk. And interestingly, that means that these 15-year-olds that we're talking about, it's their parents. And so for the first time, we're going to see this very interesting dilemma of parents and their kids in this new world and work order. Now, our education system focuses, and rightly, on foundational skills and technical skills. However, to actually have a portfolio, to have any chance in the new work order, these 2 other areas are absolutely critical. One is what we call enterprise skills, and the other is career management. Now, if you're going to have 17 jobs in 5 different industries, you can forget career advice. You as a parent or a grandparent cannot give career advice. What you can do though is start to understand what career management and career navigation might be. And that's actually one of the new jobs in the new work order, is how to help people manage and navigate their career. The enterprise skills is so interesting and so key. When I went to school, enterprise skills were called soft skills. You know, as you left the classroom or the grounds of the school, they shouted at you, don't forget to learn how to speak. Communication, hashtag. Actually, there weren't no hashtags then. And then in the last couple of decades, they've been called 21st century skills. Like, don't forget to get your skills for the 21st century. But given that we're here now, the idea that these are enterprising skills that can be learned and embedded from a very, very, very young age and can be built upon is of much, much greater interest to us. So we have adopted the terminology enterprise or enterprising skills, not that you're going to be a business person, but being enterprising is a key capability in the new world of work. So we looked again at the demand side and said, well, what do employers think about this? In a 3-year period, from 2012 to 2015, employers were asking of entry-level job takers, wanters, desirers, seekers, these 4 things. In a 3-year period, the ask for digital skills had increased by 212%. The issue that we have, and PISA has assessed us on this from an educational perspective, is that we cannot make it, break it, build it, remake it, break it, build it. That is the complex part of digital that all children and young people must learn. And yes, Coding Camp is one of the pieces of that story, but there are many, many, many pieces of that story about how do you make it, break it, build it, rebuild it. Being an early adopter and being a user is not enough, and it will not be enough. Interestingly, for us anyway, 181% increase in bilingual skills. Now, in our context, that privileges a group of young people who have never, ever been privileged in Australia before. And that is the 40% of young people who live west of Sydney and west of Melbourne in the burbs, whose parents speak a second language. Critical thinking and problem solving, 158% increase, creativity and innovation, and then finally communication. Now, we just don't believe our own research at FYA. We go and look for proxies. And so the proxy we looked for was wages. And we found that if a young person could demonstrate their capabilities and skills in any of those enterprising skills at the top level, they could earn up to $9,000 more in wages. In Australia, we at FYA, we kind of demonstrate what we're doing by kind of putting together programs. And so in the last 2 years, we've run this program called $20 Boss. And what happens is that for early high school age students, they get $20, a real $20. In a month, they have to set up a business. It has to have some kind of value. It can't be a widget for a widget's sake. It has to add value to someone somewhere. At the end of the month, they pay back the $20, and with $1 interest, it is a bank. And then anything they make on top of that, they can keep, put back into their business or put into their school or into their community. 18,000 students ran at this in a 2-year period, ran at it. We embedded it and tracked it to the curriculum. But interestingly, what we saw were not just incredible entrepreneurs, and there were always a few, but interestingly what we saw was understanding of ecosystems. So for every student that had an idea, there was one kid who said, you know, I don't have an idea, but for $5 each, I will build you a website. And another kid who says, actually, I'm kind of good at art. I have no idea about entrepreneurship, but for $5 each, I will create your logo. And on and on and on it went. And our study of the ecosystems, which were just a replication of the ecosystems out in the world in entrepreneurship, was how quickly that happened. We also, because we embedded this and tracked it to curriculum, the young people were able to be, you know, kind of assessed on this, which is again very powerful and very important, because what we know now about how young people learn is that they learn through trial, through immersion, through doing the thing that they're talking about. 99% of the students paid back the $20. The bankers never had a better return. NAB, who is our banker, like, this is ridiculous. 48% said, I would love to continue my business. And some of my favourites were 3 guys in Central Australia, Alice Springs, looked around their school, thought the teachers were looking a little bit on the chubster side. So set up a boot camp and kind of guilted the teachers into boot camp twice a week, which they did. And, all looked very fit at the end of the month. These 3 15-year-olds took the business out of school, and they're still going to school, running the business and doing the other things that they do. Time magazine summed it up beautifully. They said, you can throw away your briefcase, you're probably not going to the office. You can kiss your benefits goodbye. Remember what I said earlier about the new flexible economy. Your new boss won't look like your old one. There's no longer a ladder. By the way, this could yet be the most liberating thing that we ever say to young people. You know, when my parents were born, they got born, they went to school, they went to more school, they went to university, they climbed a ladder madly for 37 years to get to a gold pen. They got the gold pen, they got in their car, slapped a caravan on the back of it, drove around Australia and died. It's not exactly inspiring to a 15-year-old. When I say to a 15-year-old, there's that, or there's the jungle gym. So forget the ladder, there's a jungle gym where you get to learn lots of things and to go up and down and moving around. That actually is what they put their hand up for. But it only works if they are equipped and inspired and have the right set of capabilities. There's a world of opportunity, but only if you can figure out a new path. Our research came to this conclusion that we need a new mindset. We need to think differently about work. We need to think differently about skills and capabilities. We need to look under jobs and see how they are linked. And we need to think very differently about this idea that in a portfolioed life, which is what a 15-year-old will likely have, they will spend sometimes working for themselves, sometimes working for someone else, and sometimes working with others. And there may be some time where they're not doing anything in the new work order. And navigating and being able to manage that, as you can just imagine as you're sitting there, is going to take a different mindset for everyone and particularly for them. It's actually about more than work. We're going to ask the next generations to deal with some of the biggest issues on the planet. Inequality, the very sustainability of the planet, and in the context of our 2 countries and ageing population, which will see 2.5 taxpayers for every 5 retirees in the next 30 years. That's dramatically different. That's a very different. And so this isn't just about work and how am I going to work and how I'm going to put it all together. It's about what am I going to bring to the world and how am I going to participate in the world. And that's why this question, so what do you want to be when you grow up, is probably the worst question that we could ever ask a young person. But I would suggest that there's a better question. So what is the world you want to create? Thank you.